Hello, friends. Let's get a few technical things in order. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Get my notes all ready because today we're talking about the gut and the brain and the effects on our mental and physical health and immune system. And this is a big topic. So, just taking some time this morning to reflect in the journey of my understanding of the gut and the brain and why so many things that I've said for years, like I can feel it in my gut, or when we get butterflies, or you hear somebody say it was gut wrenching, or they felt sick to their stomach. You hear these things in everyday life, and then when you study a topic like this, you really see the intelligence that so many of us bypass, and we maybe take for granted and don't even realize how much work our body is doing for us innately and on its own every single day, all the time. So I'm excited for this because it gets to highlight the intelligence, what we call in chiropractic the innate intelligence, and this design that I believe God has stitched together that is absolutely mind blowing. And it is things like this that make it so easy for me to expect miracles, because when you look at the complexity of some of the systems within our body, it it just takes your breath away of what all has to come together for us to just sit here and function. And when we go to eat something, how the cascade takes over from there, and how we take those things, those nutrients and the wastes from food, and where it all goes from there. So it also is extremely relevant as we go back to school and we look at the mental health and the physical health and the immune system health of our children. So I grabbed my Make Kids Healthy Again hat, because that is a fundamental part of our mission at the Lighthouse, and the big idea to support parents and be a voice for children and healthy families, and to really claim our freedom through claiming responsibility for the foods that we purchase, the foods that we eat, the you know um, outdated beliefs that we kind of let go, and replace with newer, healthier ones. So I hope that as we open up this gut brain conversation, it gives you just one little big idea, or one little shift, or one little piece of understanding, because it is a big topic, and I do have lots of notes to kind of keep me on track. But when you do get this big idea, it shifts everything. When you understand a little bit more about the science in the way that our brain is connected to our gut, and that we really are what we eat. And if we're eating junk, we're going to get junk out. And that's going to be the expression, that's going to be the health status. And so, if you're unhappy, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you have a child with ADHD or depression or anxiety, or a number of different, chronic health, things that we're seeing on a rise in our culture today for adults and for children, if you are working with a practitioner and diet is not a part of their conversation, we're missing the boat, because it's scientifically sound. We understand, we know that this relationship governs so much of our health and our happiness. So that's premise for today. Let's go ahead and get in it. So, we'll back up and really just start with the gut brain connection, known as the gut brain axis. And, we have what we know as the vagus nerve, which is the second largest nerve. We have spinal cord, which is the major highway between the brain and the body, but the second longest and maybe most influential in some ways is the vagus nerve. So when we look at the connection between your nervous system, your brain, and your enteric system, which is just a fancy scientific word for gut, your gut, there is a nerve called the vagus nerve that travels the length between the brain and your gut. And this is important because while we have, billions of cells throughout the body, and the brain is so smart, we also have millions of neurons in the gut that are responsible for your hormone production, they're responsible for your neurotransmitters like serotonin. You've got to, you've maybe heard that term and understand its length. When we have low serotonin, we see things like depression and anxiety and issues with responding to stress. Things like OCD, ADHD. When serotonin's out of whack, it's a major game changer and influence on our health. When it's up, and it's then we see ourselves in a higher state of homeostasis and health and healing. And so the way that these two talk, the way that they kind of pick up the phone and talk to each other in that gut brain communication is the vagus nerve. And so when, we eat food and it begins to break down, it really has one of its largest impacts in the bacteria that's in our gut. So there's millions of microbes in you. That's why the germ theory for me feels like it doesn't really resonate with my truth when it comes to health or infections, because we have so many bacteria and fungi and different microorganisms all over us all the time. They're a part of us. And so to fear bugs, viruses, things like that just doesn't feel honest and true to me, because I've dove into some of the science like this that shows me I'm crawling with bugs all the time, and they're not all bad. We actually need them. And there was a study with two mice back in 2004 where they actually removed the bacteria from one of the mice and they kept it in the other. And then they stimulated each of them with a stress response. And the one that had a healthy ecosystem of microbes in the gut did okay. It had a normal response. The mice that were stripped away of their good bacteria and didn't have that went into a higher state of stress, of fight or flight, and had a more anxious response overall. And that's, so now we're looking at decades of research opening up and taking a look at, okay, when our good bugs, our good bacteria is thriving, when we're nurturing that, when we're eating foods that promote that, our nervous system is doing better. Our immune system is doing better. We see a lower incidence of different mental health issues when people have a good, healthy ecosystem of the good bacteria. But there is this kind of battle going on between good bacterias and bad bacterias. And this is where I said we got to claim our responsibility, because the foods that we eat, the habits that we have, whether we're drinking good water, we're sleeping, we're managing our stress, we're exercising, if we're engaging in healthier habits and we're eating foods that promote our good bacteria and help mitigate the effects of bad bacteria, we're happy. That's as simple as I can put it. When we are eating foods, unfortunately, that are very common in our standard American Western diet, they're not good for our good bacteria. When we overuse antibiotics, this is why I'm not a big fan of antibiotics for childhood illnesses or infections. We want to use everything we can as a first line of defense before antibiotics, because chronic antibiotic use is wiping out all of the good bacteria in there. And when you understand, okay, all this bacteria down here is using the vagus nerve to call up to the brain and tell it what to do, and if I don't have enough of the good stuff going on, I'm not producing enough serotonin. I'm not producing enough GABA and things that make my mental health and my immune system health thrive. We start to understand that we've got to make different choices if we really want to promote health. And that's not to say that we don't need, time and place medications or supplements. It just means that if you're not focusing on your food and your habits first, those are the most accessible things that you yourself can shift and change. And if we're not focusing and doubling down on our controllables, then we're living in this state of victimhood that a bug's going to get us, or we have bad genes, or we're at the mercy of this diagnosis and this autoimmune thing that I have. And I don't know about you, but for me and the people that I see thrive in our practice, and the mentors and community that I choose to surround myself with, they don't settle for those victim stories. And whether they're diagnosed with something as big and scary as cancer, or we're talking as fundamental as a common cold, and everywhere in between, When we focus on our controllables and our terrain, right? Our body, when we look at what can I control? Am I drinking enough water? Am I hydrating and choosing hydrating healthy foods? Am I choosing foods that promote healthy bacteria, which we're going to talk about here in a second? Am I resting? Am I exercising? We do that first and we focus on the things that we can control, and then we opt for intervention, or then we look at the things that we can't control. y- you see a higher rate of health across the board, of confidence, of trust, of happiness, of vitality, of prosperity, because I think on a number of levels, they're not living in fear of what's going on out there or what they need to avoid, or constantly washing their hand, because they understand, like, no, I have good bacteria, bad bacteria. Like, I get to control this ecosystem to some degree. I'm not just at the mercy of what waves crash my way. So I hope that part makes sense, because that's a big idea, guys. So when we talk about, what we are, what we eat, we look at the fermented foods, pickle foods. So if you haven't already, I strongly recommend incorporating things like kefir and sauerkraut and yogurt and kimchi and pickled foods, because they've known about these foods for years. So back in the Romans and the Vedic and, Eastern Chinese, medicines, these are a way of life. As far back I read, as Marco Polo attributed kefir to his magic tonic. This goes back so far, guys. That Abraham, right? Biblically, Abraham attributed a soured milk as what would heal and sustain him. This is, and I know that, when I tell people about kefir and kombucha and kimchi, and they're like, ugh, I just don't like the taste of that. Couple things. As you cut back sugars and processed foods and you heal your gut, you'll heal your palate. And the things that maybe don't taste as good to you in the beginning, you will actually start to crave and you will like more, and they will not taste as putrid and bad. Some of them are always going to have an off taste, but I was watching the Chosen movie. I don't know if you watched the series The Chosen, about Jesus's life, and I was watching that the other day, and they talked, he hit it there of, food is not meant to be the focus of our life. And yes, we gather and we eat at a table, and we eat as a form of love and community, but food is not meant to be this, luxurious, gluttonous thing. It is meant to be as reverence to your human body. And when I look at that tied to this concept, and I see how far away really we've gotten from it, and it's calculated. There's marketing campaigns. There's, we look at the Tyson food companies, the big mega food companies, and the additives that they're putting into it. And there's a calculated, systematic advertising marketing campaign to choose food dyes and, ingredients and seasonings that get us addicted to foods. So I don't minimize the fact that this is hard. This is, yes, we know kimchi and kombucha and kefir and all these things are good, and we should eat, what God made, and stay away from the processed crap and glyphosate GMO foods. We know at this point, this information is readily available. Years ago, different conversation. Now we've heard this. You're hearing it. So why don't we do it? Well, there is a systematic campaign to keep us addicted to food. And, I believe on some levels to keep us sick and keep us disconnected. So it is hard until it's not. It is a process to build new habits. And I hope that these conversations just invite us to come back to the basics over and over again. I am very human. And so, we're at the lake with our kids, and yet, a bag of Cheetos, comes out, or the kids ask for Gatorade, or, this is where it gets tough, because not everybody eats super clean and things come up. I'm not saying never, ever, ever eat anything bad again. I don't know how practical that is for a lot of people, especially as finances get harder and groceries go skyrocketing. I understand that there are challenges, when it comes to this, when you're first unlearning behaviors that you used to think served you. And then when you learn this and you go, oh my gosh, there's an unlearning curve that you have to go on. And then you slip and one, candy bar turns into connected to a bag of chips, connected to, a cascade of other stuff. Or, I did the 75 hard and we quit drinking for 75 days and then an additional 30 day in that program. And then summer came and I started having drinks at the pool or going and in social situations and it's back. And then I'm like, God, one turns into two and the bad habits seem to stack. The same is true for good habits. And so, again, part of why I'm doing these conversations weekly is because I myself and everybody I know, we're human and we've got to dip back into these things that we are actively learning and trying to, stack new good habits. And so just try something new. Maybe you've had kimchi and you didn't like it. Try it again. Maybe you tried kombucha and you didn't think you liked it. Try it again. Look at these different foods, these yogurts. Look up Borntrager Dairy and some of the local places that you can get really good homemade things like this. Look up recipes online and try to find different ways that you can start to incorporate this. Because when you do, so here we go. Antidepressants are becoming more and more common in our culture. We're seeing a depression and anxiety, suicide epidemic of tragic proportions. And I believe food and really understanding this gut-brain connection is is crucial. It's essential and it's game changing if we start to incorporate it along the way. Food has to be a part of our solution because 90 to 95% of our serotonin production happens in the gut. And we need a healthy ecosystem in our gut so that it can talk to the brain. And if you are that person that has had just been feeling sick to your gut and you feel anxious a lot, give it a try. Say for 30 days, you're going to just attempt to eat a healthy diet. And you can go on YouTube, you can go on Google, you can go on Chat GPT and say, literally, you can type in, give me a 30-day game plan to heal my gut. Give me a shopping list for gut healthy foods. Give me 10 healthy recipes that kids will like. And you can type these things into Chat GPT and it will give you everything. And so it's not as hard as it once was. It's just that we have to start shifting our mind and making these adjustments at home. So a few other things I want to hit before we shift topics. We talked about serotonin production when the gut is inflamed. And you guys hear this from me a lot in the practice about you're inflamed and your system is inflamed, and that's why we hurt. When our muscle tissue is in a state of inflammation, you are going to have pain. So one of the ways to lower systemic inflammation is to clean up and heal your gut. This is huge for those of you that are experiencing any kind of neck pain, back pain, headaches, pain just in general. It's essential to really look at your diet when you're attempting to heal different types of pain. 70% of the immune system is in the gut. So if your gut is a mess, if your child's gut is a mess, your immune system is going to be a mess. So what can you do? Start cleaning up the diet today. Look at high quality probiotic, prebiotic, highly recommend natural, of course, over on Central. It's a small local Green Acres. We love them too. I really like our local health food stores that you can go and ask good questions and they can connect you with a good, probiotic, prebiotic. This is essential for nutrient absorption. So we said we are what we eat, but further than that, you are what you absorb. So if you're out of whack, if you're out of balance in your gut, your brain, and your hormone production, all of these things, then you're not absorbing nutrients properly. So you might be eating good things, but you're still sick. There's something out of whack in the ecosystem, and that's where probiotic, prebiotic things come in. So we look to our dietary choices and our lifestyle factors. And look at the top causes of leaky gut: poor diet, chronic stress, infections, antibiotic use, inflammation, toxins and chemicals, and alcohol consumption. So when the diet is high in sugar and unhealthy fats, it's a problem. It's going to disrupt the health. When we see gluten and dairy, they're a huge trigger. So if you want to attempt to heal leaky gut or gut dysfunction, go for a little period of time, whether it's a week or 2, and cut all the gluten and dairy you possibly can and see how your body and your child's body respond. Those elimination diets are essential to really getting to know what are the triggers that affect you the most. Look at chronic stress. So anybody who's in a high stress environment or work or go, 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 when we're under that type of sympathetic fight or flight all the time, it wrecks the gut. And we've got to limit the stressors that we hit ourselves with. When we have chronic and ongoing infections that are unresolved over time, they're going to take their toll on the gut. Overuse of antibiotics is a huge problem. So we want to attempt everything we can before it should be the last resort, not the first resort. We look at different ways that we can limit inflammation, like we talked about, and toxins and chemicals, clean up the different soaps and things that we're using for laundry and cleaning. Every little bit that we can limit chemical toxicity, clean toothpaste, clean shampoo, clean makeup, the ways that you can start to clean that up, you're going to help your gut out. It doesn't have to work so hard. And it isn't, when we put something on the skin, this is an extension of the gut. So we put it on here, it's going to then be absorbed into the gut. It's going to affect our ecosystem on the inside. Alcohol consumption. Alcohol is bad, guys. It just is. Like it's a neurotoxin, it's a poison, and it is really bad for the gut. So if you want to change your life through the power of your gut, consider going, sober for a little while and shifting that choice in your life, even if it's just for a short period to give it a go. Ways that you can heal leaky gut. You want to eat whole foods diet. Again, did God make it? Did man make it? Try to go as natural with, those fruits, veggies, whole foods, high fiber, the probiotic foods that we mentioned. Manage your stress, get to moving and exercising. Anything we can do to reduce stress in our system is going to help the gut brain relationship. Stay hydrated, lots and lots and lots of water. Incorporate anti-inflammatory foods, things that are high in omega-3 fatty acids, flax seeds, walnuts, fatty fish. Incorporating turmeric and ginger and green teas really help lower our inflammation. I remember being in China when I was studying acupuncture, and they talked about, you know, uh, Americans, you have body on fire. Our bodies on the inside, if we could see the inside, they're screaming at us. And you can call it 100 different labels and diagnosis. End of the day, our body is on fire. And this is how we heal it. Make sure you get sleep. So I went a little bit longer than I wanted to, but it's a big topic. It's so important. And I wish, again, part of why I'm doing this is because this is these are the concepts that I wish, every single person in our practice and our community would have access to. And once you do, and you start to really understand it more and make changes in your grocery list, your entire life is going to change. So, last little bit that I wanted to touch on is some back to school. So, we've got a lot of families trying homeschool. And I just want to say I'm sending my prayers to you, because I know that it is not easy. When the world kind of shut down there with COVID, we had an experience of what looked like homeschool, but it's not really. That was like school kind of coming into our home. School coming in the home and homeschool are not the same things. And what I found myself in, because we homeschool our four younger, so twin 13-year-olds and twin 8-year-olds, and it's not a knock on people's choices. Every single family has to sit and really look at the vision for their family, what works for their internal, dynamics and harmony, what doesn't work, what each child needs, and you're going to have to make decisions on your own. I had thought about homeschooling for years, and then COVID happened in 2020, and I was like, well, that's it. I guess God just gave me the sign that we're going to do this thing. And it was hard, and we kind of followed, what trends we're doing, but I just brought school home, and I was trying to trade school for school at home, and that's not really what I wanted. So I highly recommend looking at Teach, Play, Learn if you want some insights. So for me, it was a no-brainer. It was, it does have a price tag to it, but it saved me so much time and money of of trying to find the right fit, and she spent hours on the phone with me, and she wanted to know Maggie and Phoenix and Jagger and Knox and what I wanted for them. Did I want, more school or unschool? Did I want more play based? Did I want music? Did I want, play and out in the community? Are they books? Do they like math? Do they like science? Do they like reading? What type of kids are they? What type of family dynamic and schedule do they want? And they gave me a full packet of like, here's all the recommendations. And now we're here for you for the next few months as you get going. So the first few years were really hard. I found Teach, Play, Learn totally changed our lives. This year we're entering seventh grade with the boys and second for the littles. And the boys are going to stay home probably for the next couple of years at least. Or jury's out on high school, what we're going to do. you know, um, Something people ask about a lot is sports. And in state of Kansas, Keisha passed that you can participate in sports in the school district that you live in. So it's still possible for your children to participate in athletics in school. And there's club sports. If you look at the Olympics that we just had, a number of the prime athletes like Simone Biles, Michael Phelps, were homeschooled kids. Some of the most elite athletes were homeschooled, and I think that's another maybe stigma that gets put, that it's weird or that it's not that common. And guys, homeschool is like grown tenfold over these last few years, and our access to resources is unbelievable. And your kids won't be weird, and there's still plenty of kids are weird. Let's be real. Like whatever kind of school, like kids are kids, and but you as a parent always get to decide what type of social things you want to do with your kids, athletic things, craft thing. I mean, you get to make this your own adventure, which can feel really overwhelming, but it's also extremely liberating and empowering and beautiful. You just don't get this time back. My oldest son is 19, and the time that I've gotten with Jagger, Knox, Maggie, and Phoenix, like, man, we're just way more intentional with it. So I love it. But as we reached, and I have help. So also that, it takes a village, guys, and I wouldn't recommend trying to do it on your own. So, for me to be able to practice and go to work on those days, like I have to have help. So I am so thankful for Laurel, who, used to work in a preschool, and then she came on. She's been amazing at helping us implement different things, and we work together and we found the flow that works for us. There's tons of co-ops. There's all different, schools like Freedom Academy or Freedom Prep and Light Academy, which is Light Academy is what we're going to try this year. There's a Wichita homeschool page that you can go in just to, depending on how old your kids are and how pressing of resources you need. I'll add a few book resources that I recommend. But you guys, again, our access to information is so insane now. So I mean, don't try to do it on your own, because there's so much out there that you can tap into. Um, but this year, so Light Academy does 9 to 1, either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and then you homeschool the other days. And I'm excited to have that structure. I think that'll be really good for the transition we're kind of making into seventh with the boys, and to help us tackle, being able to meet the individual needs, because I have 4 kids that are wildly different and they need tended to a little differently. And we were reaching some capacity with that. So knowing what was working, knowing what wasn't, I'm excited. I'll keep you posted on it. Um, but that is the biggest thing I would say, is that you get to make this what you want, and you get to know your kid and what they need. And if this is, if you're somebody and your kids are in public school, again, there's just no knock on that. That's eh, my kids and I mean, we came up through public school. When I look at the reasons that it didn't align for me anymore, was the amount of technology use in the schools didn't feel good anymore. The fact that they were going long, 8-hour days, and sitting in classrooms, and less music and less PE and less recess, and all of this, like, and the bigger classrooms, and just they weren't getting that personal attention. It wasn't the same as it was 100 years ago, like when I was in grade school. And It's not to say it doesn't work for some people. It wasn't in alignment with our family's core values and what we wanted. And my husband and I, man, we prayed, we went back and forth, we argued about it. We have made bad decisions and then course corrected. We've made good decisions that, I'm happy to share. So if feel free to drop your questions here and I'll share some of those resources in the description. But um to anybody that's off on the adventure or doing another year of parenting in general. But, when you're trying to set out on the unknown with something like homeschool, it can feel really, really daunting. And so I'm cheering for you. I'm here for you. And we will be doing some more homeschool classes. Dr. Derek did a homeschool science class. And it was a huge hit. So we'll be bringing that back as well. But I just wanted to hit on that and share some of the things. So, again, we'll make sure that some of the gut brain notes and the homeschool, unschool resources are down there for you. And this is our, office hours that we're doing each week of what's coming up, what are people talking about, and how can we show up a little bit more for you. So feel free to add your comments, questions in the comments section. Feel free to share this link with friends. And you can always join me. We're gonna lock in Tuesdays at noon. We'll go for about 30 minutes. Each week's going to be different. I'm going to invite a couple of guests from the practice. Some upcoming topics that we're going to talk about are allergies. Every season transition, I feel like we go through that a little bit. We're going to talk about the immune system and different things that you can swap out in your medicine cabinet. We're going to talk about sleep. We are going to talk about HRV. We're going to talk about cancer, and we're going to talk about autism, or just a few of the ones that we've been working on. And if there's something in particular that you want to talk about, please, please, please let us know. So love you. Happy Tuesday, and I'll see you soon.